myself first. So I'm one of those really, really socially awkward people. So if you speak to me in a pub or a club, whatever, my conversation style is, hey, how are you? And then, being a socially awkward person I am, what do you think of warming Russo-Turkish relations and the implications it has for post-Brexit Britain? Not surprisingly, that turns off a lot of people. So being a young, socially awkward male, I find myself a lot on online dating. Now, I've noticed quite a lot, whenever people see my job, they always say more or less exactly the same thing. That sort of really patronising, really infantilizing, oh, it's so rewarding. Well, yeah, but it's also quite challenging as well. Don't you just feel great giving young people with autism, helping them and stuff like? Well, at the end of the day, my job, yes, it is to help young people with autism, but more importantly, it's to teach them that they've always had the skills within themselves to change the world the way they see fit. That is my job. I'm not lording over them. I'm essentially showing them that they are normal people just like you and me. Well, being autistic, I guess that does include just like me as well. So when I think about why I did my job, I like to take you back about 20 years. That really annoying thing that films do when it's like, here's a scene, let's go back up to the scene. So put yourself in my shoes. I was between 4 or 5 years old. I wasn't talking. I was doing, as I've now been told by colleagues, something called echolation, which is when all you can do is repeat the things that are said back to you. To the point that my mum actually took me to a speech and language therapist, really, really worried why I wasn't speaking. And now comes a classic joke, now she can't wait for me to shut up. Let's skip forward about another 5 years. So now I'm 10 years old. This is still before I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. So I was always the weird kid. I wasn't talking about Russo-Turkish relations when I was 10, but I was talking about equally weird things like, did you know cats only see in red and green, so when they see a mouse's blood, it clears off some random colour, some fact I can't remember. As a result, you can probably imagine that I didn't have many friends. No, I didn't, and I was also bullied quite a lot in school as well. Now, fast forward this a couple of years, sorry about people skipping time, I'm in secondary school now. Now again, no friends whatsoever, constantly bullied. My grades were, let's just say, absolutely terrible. I was one of those kids who probably wasn't going to go anywhere. In fact, there was pretty much a high chance I probably might have ended up in the criminal justice system or something like that. But it took until I was about 14 years old when things were actually reaching crisis point, when I was being excluded from school. I'm not quite sure the time is, not expelled, but excluded for significant periods of time, about twice, maybe 3 times a year, before I finally went to a child psychologist and I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Now, to my parents, a lot of things suddenly clicked. This makes a lot of sense. To me, however, my entire world fell through the floor. Now, it wasn't the fact that I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome which made my world crumble around me. It's what I was being told by the medical professionals about what being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome meant. It meant that I would probably never make friends, that I would never live independently, that I would never get a job, that I would always be a burden on society. Now, obviously, they didn't say that to me in those exact words, but that was more or less the gist of what they were saying. And especially the literature out there as well. For young people who had just been recently diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, there was no literature. And being an avid reader, such as myself, I had to read what my parents were reading, which was pretty much saying those sorts of things in those terms. Now, that's not me, evidently, although I'd also like to add the fact that I've got a university degree and the fact that I have a job also makes me exceptionally lucky compared to most other young people being diagnosed with autism. But it doesn't have to be that way. Now, as I said, the reason why I do the job that I do. So again, back to 14 years old, there was a teacher in my school who saw past the acting up, the bad behaviour, the shouting things in class, the always constantly getting into fights. And he thought that there might be a little something there. So he recommended that I stand for something called Young Mayor of Lewisham. Now, I really had very little idea what that was about, but it was interesting. Anything that would give me something outside of school, away from school and away from the people that I was with. So I stood. I didn't win. I came second. I was Deputy Young Mayor of Lewisham, so I guess what they call that participation prize or whatever, but still getting the second number of votes, I still find that quite an achievement. And that's when something clicked within me. It wasn't just the youth workers on the project that helped me develop who I was. It was the fact that I was actually part of something bigger than myself. I found out that A, I love to talk, if you couldn't see from now, but B as well, I was helping people. I was making a difference, but most importantly of all, I was starting to have a say over some of the very complex political decisions that were taking place and directing my life. And that was something that I loved. The project that I was on, Young Men Flourishing, wasn't just for young people with autism. There were a couple of the young people with autism there, but there were also young people from gangs, young people from broken homes, or whatever the term is, I never know what to say these days, but young people from vastly different areas. And that project worked for all of them. It was all about giving people the power to affect decisions over their own life, making them feel that they were a part of society, making them feel that if they worked at something, they could achieve something. And that was a lesson that I took from my own life. In fact, the uptake after I was Deputy Young Men Flourishing and then started working on the project as a volunteer youth worker was almost immediate. I calmed down at school, didn't make many friends, but a few. My grades finally jumped up, and I wasn't getting excluded anymore. It made the difference that I needed to go to university, allow me to get this job that I'm doing right now in the first place. But also, most importantly of all, it gave me the lesson that in order to improve a person's life, any person's, regardless of whether they have autism or not, it's simply giving them the power to know that they are a part of society, that they can change society, and if need be, they can change the world if they want to. So, back to the job that I do. And one of the reasons why I realised that the job that I do is so important. So, as many of you are aware, in fact, to the point where the news is still talking about it, last year we had a referendum to vote on whether to stay or leave the European Union. Now, I just thought, out of the blue, about 6 weeks before the referendum, I know voter participation amongst young people is low. I work for an autism charity getting young people with autism involved in politics. What if I invite some MPs to come to our school and do a debate for some of the kids in our school and some of the kids in our projects as well, to let them know why voting is important? Now, I went and did this, it went very, very well, and I didn't really think anything of it. Until I got a call about a week later from one of the MPs that we invited. She said, "Thank you very much for inviting me. This is not something that I have ever done before." And I honestly could not believe that. When we consider that young people, so not young people, people with autism make up 1% of our population, and that number is probably far, far higher. Why is it that an MP who already deals with lots and lots of autism-specific casework has never ever done a political engagement event for people with autism? And that's when it struck to me. Actually, this job is more than just a paycheck. I really am making a difference here. I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? And I've actually forgotten the first joke that I made at the beginning, but that word that I said, it's rewarding, that's it. You could say that it was very, very rewarding. So another part of the project that I work on is about getting young people with autism to inspect their local healthcare services. And again, ever since the Autism Act passed in 2009, the landmark piece of legislation, which was all about a disability-specific piece of legislation that was all about making society more equal for people with autism, 6 years on, after we do a survey, we still find that 74% of people with autism still think they reach healthcare disparity. So one of the things that we're doing in our project to change that is we are getting young people inspecting their local healthcare services and then working with those services to make them better for people with autism. And it actually culminated in an event that I went to this morning where I got 2 of our young people who inspected the Whittington Hospital to actually present to the London College of Paediatrics, where there were other NHS services there, so they could use that as a model to change their own services. Again, another very rewarding aspect of my job. So I'm saying quite a lot, I'm not really...
From a black perspective as well, that you can hear that there's still this misunderstanding about what autism is. So when we talk about the word black, it's not that we're alienating anybody, it's about trying to outreach to the communities that don't want to accept what autism is. Because there is a big taboo within the black community and Asian community. I'd like to thank the Luciana from Family Information Services, who's come from Wandsworth, because as I said, she's been there from the beginning with the Second Voice when I was having a lot of issues with the local authority down in the Central Coast. But at the same time, I can say that, despite that, I can say they've continued to support me from the beginning. I can say that there's Cassandra Learning Centre that deals with young women who've gone through domestic violence. Because I've gone through DV, and I would say that it's something that when people want to know what's the link between autism and DV, people forget that siblings, parents, families, we actually experience DV, but it's done by default because people don't know what autism is. So we have to try to educate social workers, and even, I suppose, a lot of MPs and councillors, and at the same time, there's a lot of black leaders, I think, that do need to know what autism is, because you can't say that you understand and then you've still got this issue that autism doesn't affect the black community. It actually affects people that are in the mixed race community as well. So we have to look at all perspectives. Jennifer McDermott, who's not here, who's been a great support for me for the last 2 years, because people don't realise that even though I'm fighting this good fight, I'm still going through my own challenges. People don't forget that I am still a parent that is looking for help. I don't get paid to do this. All the parents that are with me, we all do this voluntary. We don't get paid, and we're passionate because we know that at the end of the day it's about our voices being heard. But at the same time, with my son and his sisters, they need to be heard as well. So I would like to thank Ali as well. I mean, I met Ali only last year when I did the first ever Wands of Autism Fair, and she came and said, look, I want to demonstrate what Movement Works does. And I can say that a lot of the local authorities don't want to connect with the independent organisations, and I think they need to understand that, yes, it is costly. Yes, when we do events, it's costly, but they need to understand autistic people need the additional assertive technology or the information that they can help to communicate to the wider world. And if we cannot put that finance in, a lot of the autistic people are going into depression, into the mental health system, into the criminal justice system. A lot of people don't look at that. And there's a lot of young women, this is where I'm very passionate about when we look at sexual abuse. This does happen to a lot of young women. And people don't realise that we need to start looking at the bigger picture, not just look at the child, the adult, we've got to look at families as well.